Welcome to the Complete Angler. I'm Joe Cordeiro. On March 9th, I'll be having a class, and this is a video of one of the flies that we're going to be doing in the class. I've been tying flatwing flies for a long time, and I love teaching it, especially to students that really want to understand to build a fly properly, get it to swim right in the water is really the crucial part, and that's why I love teaching it, because most of the time tyers don't know the fundamentals of putting down a flatwing feather properly. So my class definitely teaches that technique. And I look forward to, at any point in time, answering any questions to anyone from this video through the Complete Angler. Take a look up at the Complete Angler website. We're going to be, they have in stock Cordeiro's flatwing feathers, the flash, the braid, the hooks. Everything is one-stop shopping here at the Complete Angler for any of your flatwing needs. Alright, so we're going to start off with putting our hook, our Eagle Claw L253 or an Ahrex 780, the Bluewater or the Minnow style Ahrex hook in the vise. Right here is a 254, just to show you the larger eye. On this Regal vise is the saltwater head vise. It has a notch in it to really secure. You can lift this whole table up on that vise. And the reason is that it does have a bulldog bite. There is no doubt in my mind. It will not let go. No adjustment needed. Just grab the claw and put the hook in. We're going to use Uni Thread 3/0 today. White is fine. We're going to be doing a single feather flatwing. The selection of feather could be anywhere from white to yellow to olive to black. Whatever suits your fancy, what you think would be a great color to have in the water. Personally, my favorite colors are olive, which we're going to do a dark olive today, chartreuse, yellow, and white. Those four constitute a significant amount of imitation bait for the silver side bait, especially the olive. Especially in the springtime, it's a real killer. And then go with the chartreuse sometime, in late spring and summer when they get a little bit brighter. So we're going to start off with that hook and then take the thread right behind the eye of the hook. And don't be shy on the thread. Make sure you wind it all the way down. And where you stop is very important. Right in front of the tip of the hook. And you take off that tag end. And the reason is you want to make sure you're right in front of the tip of that hook so that you know where the feather is going to be placed, where all the material is going to be. That is your datum point. It's right there in front of you. You know where your thread should be hanging all the time. And if you're clicking in front of the tip of the hook, just back it off just slightly on one little slight wrap. So there's your basic fundamentals. Start with your thread right in front of the tip of the hook. Next is bucktail. Really crucial when you select your bucktail, when you come into the Complete Angler, you got to make sure, open up that package and feel and exactly look at what you want to try to imitate for a bait. Softer, more supple kind of material from a bucktail would be for a sand eel or of items of smaller bait fish. Larger bait fish, you want to get something a little bit more coarse, a little bit more straighter, maybe a little bit of a kinkle to it. But the key to the first step in the foundation is down at the base, which is closest to the deer body, is the deer tail's hollowness. And this is where you want the material to splay out so that it supports the feather from an anti-fouling and creates that conical shape that you want to get for the back end of that fly. So if you look at the bucktails, you can see there's a sweet spot as well where you can select from, but also from the base is where you have that selection to create the first step in your fly to give it a nice flare to support the feather. So I'm going to take a matchstick of from the bucktail here, cut close to the hide. And what I like to do is measure it up. So I take out the longest ones because I'll save those for later and make sure that I get the shorter ones. So this is a 1/0 L254 Eagle Claw. Any 1/0 short shanked O'Shaughnessy hook is what I prefer. Longer shank hooks like the Mustad 34007 or the 310 or 11, they're too long. And the reason for it is that you want to be able to have that fulcrum point of your feather at the exact short point, like a cantilever beam, hanging off the end of there, so it has that movement, that quick movement. Once you strip and let it relax in the current, it will swing properly. So I usually say anywhere between 1.5 to 2x the hook, and you can measure it up pretty easily, 1, 2, and then you trim it off. And you trim it off at an angle, and I'm talking about a severe angle. If you can see through, it's horizontal, but there's an angle that comes up. And the reason for it is you're going to put the butts right straight down on top of your hook shank. And you're going to come in behind with the pinch move, and you're going to gather it up with about 3 soft pinch moves. And you can see how it rides up. And what you want to do is hold the material, cinch down and up and over, and get it to flare. And then after a couple of wraps, you come in, put your index finger underneath, and give it a spread. Just roll it a little bit. Make sure your index finger doesn't allow that material to go in underneath. You want everything to stay right on top of the hook shank. Once it's there in place, cinch up and then tidy up the ends so it's nice and clean. And you can see, come back to that same datum point, now you have what I call like the witch's broom, an old straw broom. Splays out and up. And the reason for it is so that it supports the feather properly. Once you lay this feather down, concave down, you'll see in a minute how it's positioned. It will act as an anti-fouling device. Rule of thumb. Most of the time, just with one single feather, you can get away with not having to have additional support. I would say anything above one single feather, like a 2 or even 3s and above, you need to use a support hackle, convex, forward, or hanging up. And that is made out of a cape, which is very important to know because you don't want to use a very supple feather as a support. You want something that will support all the feathers that you're going to lay down, concave down. Okay? So I'm going to grab from Cordeiro's Flatwings saddles. I'm going to grab an olive. Now, everyone always asks me, Joe, what constitutes a certain style feather that makes it a flatwing? Well, everybody knows about dry flies, right? And everybody knows how they act. And you really want to be able to select a feather that has that, I call it the sword shape. Something that has a shape that's just like a sword. So I'm going to grab a feather here, which comes from the nice saddle, from the Flatwing saddle. And you can see this shape. This shape is very important. I don't know if you can see it. I have a dark shirt on. And if I can just give you somewhat of an idea, if I rotate it, you can see that shape. And it's tapered, has that nice webbiness to it. But the key to the crucial part is when you select the feather, you want to make sure that the stem is fairly straight. You can see this is moving on its own, undulating freely, pretty much. And you don't want to get anything that has a super stiff stem here on the saddle. All those Cordeiro Flatwing saddles have this nice movement, that nice webbiness to it. And if you flip over and you can see the stem transitions from very thick to thin, that's where you're going to trim away that portion. Just before it transitions to the thin part of the stem. And you're going to pluck off about 1/4 inch of the tuft or that fluff, which is like little marabou fluff on the end of the feather, and you're going to dub it onto your thread. This creates a pillow. And people have said, well, there's no need to hold the pillow or to place a pillow. And the reason I love using the pillow is because when you lay this pillow down, I overextended for the video here how large that pillow is. So it's nice and fluffy. It has the same constituent material of the marabou tuft that's in the feather. And you place it concave down. And what happens is the pillow, with one turn, you can see it really sucks in on top of that pillow. Sucks right in, so it lays nice and straight. I didn't put any pressure. In fact, I can take it off, reset it if I want. I come in right over the top again. Nice move. One little setup, and it's perfect, okay? I believe that the material grabbing the end of that feather constitutes making sure that it sits properly on top of the hook shank, because that's where the material is lying, right on top. You want to be one with the hook shank, okay? Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put down some braid, and I love using Bill's body braid. Excuse me while I try to find some here. I know I didn't take it out. Here we go. Alright, I'm going to grab some Bill's body braid, cut off about 6 inches. And this, you can do one of two things. I mean, personally, the way I love to do it is to place it and do a pinch move so it sits in underneath. So I'm always right on top of that pillow. And you can see where the tag of that, and I can just pull it through. And it just comes through. And now what I do is I grab the pillow, and I just give it a little bit of a tension on my bobbin and come over just to grab that material and go all the way down the hook shank just to settle it in. And then once I see that it's properly placed, I come back in and I feel right behind the pillow and I cinch up and I go all the way back up and I'm horizontal to the hook shank. And I come so that it makes my bobbin thread come behind the pillow once, twice, and it seats. And then I just bring my thread forward to behind the eye of the hook and I clean out the extra stem. And then I take the braid that got stuck in where underneath, it's not affecting anything. You can see where this is an important feature. I take a soft wrap, 2 soft wraps, I come back in and hold it so that the torque won't pull it down. I cinch down and up, lock it all in place, and then I fill in the body. And once I bring the body forward to where my thread is, this is a little tip. The distance from the tip of the hook to the back of the barb is from where you want to stop your thread. And I'll say it again. The distance from the tip of the hook to the back of the barb is from the front of the eye to where you want to stop your thread. It's right there in front of you. I have many tires that put too much emphasis on making the head way too small. You need to back off that thread so that it has that gap that you need to create that nice head. Now you can see this is laid down pretty perfectly. All right? One thing you can add on the top here, which I do often, I add a little bit of flash in there. But for the video, to get this down, I didn't want to put the flash in just yet. Now, how you pull everything together is really quite unique. You grab some of that nice bucktail, and I personally prefer that sweet spot of the bucktail, that center portion, because it's got that nice supple feel. And I pluck out the longer ones and set aside the short ones and get rid of what I call the rats, because you don't want to add too much bulk, and you want to be able to have a nice taper. God has made these beasts, these deer, so that their material, their body fur is just really a beautiful taper. And you size it up so that the length comes in just right behind the support bucktail there. You size it up. That's where you're going to trim it. Again, I use the severe angle technique. I come in right behind, do a pinch move once, twice, 3 times, and you can see some of the material impeding on the eye. And all you got to do is just pull it back in with your thumb, come in underneath and give it a little roll, hold it, cinch up and over, and then lock it in. So now you have your underbelly. Perfect. And then what I like to do is add a little bit of a fancy lateral line, give it a little bright spot. And I love yellow and chartreuse, but yellow is my favorite, blending in with the olive. And I make sure that I grab just a pinch, a very small amount, and I make it so that it's just as long as the support bucktail to create that nice conical shape. Again, severe angle, pinch move once, twice, 3 times. It holds it in place. You see it ride up because of that angle forcing it. And then what I do is I come in and I give it a roll just to give it a little bit of a shape 3/4 of the way around the hook shank. Make sure that it rolls over, and then I hold it, cinch up, and lock it in, and come back to that same point to create that nice head. Then I'll grab some silver flash, flat Mylar flash. Don't ever use that Flashaboo. In my opinion, it's round. Anything round tends to spin. And when it spins, it tangles. And when it tangles, it doesn't let the feather do its thing. So flat Mylar is the best application. And I don't use much. Personally, less is best. And I really emphasize the fact that 4 or so pieces of flash is sufficient enough to give it that correct glitter that you want as an attractant. Okay, so I'm going to grab some of this silver flash, about 4 strands of it. And what I do is, I'm one of those guys that, I cut it really close to my fingers so that I can actually come in and do a pinch move and then pull on it so it gets out of the eye of the hook, and then I don't have to get my scissors in there. And I come back again, right to that same point, and the flash stays right on top. So it's creating this nice shape and maintaining that sparseness that you want to make the fly really stand out, especially if there's a bunch of silver sides around. You want that fly to stand out. Then next I grab a little bit of this beat up olive. I think I have a better tail in here. Oh, here we go. So I grab some of this nice long bucktail and olive to match up with the top portion. Again, I take the tips and pull out the short ones and save it for the smaller flies, because you can do them all the way down to size, I've done them down to size 4. In fact, I have a customer that loves to do them in size 6, so they're like this big. Little small baby silver sides. Again, I size it up so it has a nice taper, a little bit longer than the yellow. Come in at an angle. Again, that same move, little 3 pinch move. Get it to ride up. Spread it out. Get it to roll a little bit. Cinch up and over. Up and over. Because what happens is the torque that you're putting and exerting on it tends to want to make the material really roll over, so you have to hold it in place. And then next I grab this great peacock hurl. Now, I gotta tell you, don't ever cut any of the string of a peacock hurl. Just leave it sewn together, because it just creates a mess. If you cut that, the peacock hurl goes everywhere. So what we want to do is just grab just the tips, and I like to use somewhere about like 7 strands. And the 7 strands are really like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, I get 8. No big deal. I don't think stripers really care. I don't think they can count all that well. But you want to create this illusion of a bigger lateral line. Again, I come in, size it up so it's a slightly longer than the feather it is. Slightly longer. Hold it right on top. I do one little wrap just to hold it in place. And then I squeeze down on the top of that hurl and then come up and lock it in, because I want to spread it to create that nice shape on the top of the head. Because you want it not to roll on the sides, because when you strip it, those peacock hurl you don't want to have spread out. You want them to stay on top to create the illusion of another lateral line, because that's what that olive has done. Create a lateral line for the bait and have the illusion of a bigger lateral line off the top of the head. All right, next, what I like to do is I like to put eyes on it. I gotta tell you, in the springtime, eyes are very important. In the summertime, not so much, because they're feeding ferociously. In the springtime, most of these silver sides that I see, especially the I call them the 3-year-olds. These are ones that are like 4 inches long that are in the estuary. They have nice bright eyes. For some reason in the spring, they seem to really pop. And stripers feed on fish because they have to swallow head first. And the biggest thing is having the eyes proportional to the size of the bait. So try to select, which I get from a jungle cock cape, I select these eyes that are proportional to the length of that bait fish. You don't see the eyes of a silver side that are way larger like a pogey, or even tiny ones like a sandeel. These guys have eyes that are just proportionally to your body length, okay? And what I like to do is grab some, if I can get it here, grab some wax. I know I have it in the bag. Here we go. Because these are grade C, they have a little split to them. And what I do is I just get a little bit of wax on my thumb and swipe it through just to protect and bring the feather together so it has this nice tight shape to it. And then I come in and create the illusion of a bigger eye. One little soft wrap, keeping it horizontal to the plane of your shank. Leaving the tag so you can adjust it. So it's nice and straight. Once it's in place, do 4 soft wraps going forward. Trim in right behind the eye of the hook. Get that tag end out. And then tighten up on the tip end. Grab your Mattarelli or your, however you finish your fly off. I personally use the Mattarelli because of I can't, with my scissors in my hand, I can't do the finger wrap. And then I come in and softly come back. And then come forward. And you have the fly that has a good shape. Nice round shape. Trim off the flash to about 1 inch behind that feather. And you can see the top. You can see the belly. You can see the shape that it makes when it's in the water. That's single feather flatwing that we tied here at Complete Angler.